Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for you to begin your soldering adventure. So you might have soldered before in life, or maybe this is your first time. Either way, I expect you to be increasing your soldering skills. So here's a formative assignment. So the purpose of this video or this lesson is to explain to you about how this assignment works. So basically, you're going to end up making something like this. So this whole thing here, this whole thing is a formative assignment and a benchmark. So there's two different grades on this thing, a couple different grades. So the big thing here that we want to focus on right now for this lesson is the practice, the formative. So again, this is practice. I don't expect you to be perfect. You're going to do this a couple times so you get used to doing it. I don't expect you to be perfect the first time you're doing something. So the short story is you are going to connect 6 pieces of wire, and you're going to connect them down a line on the perf board. So this board here, it's called perf board. This front side, notice there's no metal on it. And if we look on the bottom side, we can see those copper pads. So the solder will of course stick to those copper pads. So in regards to the formative, what your mission is, you take 6 little pieces of wire. In terms of how long to cut those pieces of wire, if you cut them, definitely need to be longer than a centimeter. An inch is plenty long. You probably don't even need them an inch, but somewhere between 1 inch and 3/4 is probably plenty long. So that means if you're cutting them 1 inch long each, and you have 6, that means you need about 6 inches of wire. So if you take the roll of wire, you snip off 6 inches, you take that, snip it up, and then what you're going to have to do with that wire is you're going to have to strip the ends. So if you look here, well, it's kind of hard to see, but you have to strip the ends of the wire using wire strippers. So you just stick the wire in how far you want to strip off, you squeeze the wire stripper, and then pull it off, pull the plastic coating off the wire. There's a couple different types of wire strippers that we have, but the kind that I'll most likely have you use will be the orange handled ones, which those are nice and quick, and you just squeeze it and it pulls it off for you, which is really nice. There's other styles where you have to squeeze and then you have to pull. Anyway, so then what happens is you stick so you get the wire, you kind of spin it together a little bit so it's not, so like the wires aren't frayed. You want the wires together like this, not like all out. So then you can then stick it through the hole in the perf board. And then notice we want the wire end sticking out on the side with the pads. So the wire, we stick it through, one side through. If you notice here, you're going to go every other hole. So I'm trying to kind of do this here. Kind of hard to see, but if you notice on each wire, there is a gap in between. So if you notice, there's a hole in between the middle of this wire. So the ultimate goal is to have continuity from this end, from one end, all the way to the other. So you're just connecting the ends of the wire. So this end is connected to this end is connected to nothing. This end is connected to nothing. We got a gap, and then we put the other end of the wire through, and then this wire, the end of this wire is directly next to the next wire. So it's kind of like what we're simulating is 2 components being put together and then connecting. Right now we're just using wire, but eventually, like you'd be using, like, let's say resistors and wire, or LED and resistor, or whatever. So you connect, and then you just go all your way down, and then you solder it. What I'm going to be looking for is that you properly soldered, that there's not an excessive amount of the wire hanging out. It shouldn't be super long. A couple of these are a little long. Be looking for the solder to be very shiny. If it's not very shiny, that means that you probably had it too cold when it solidified. I'm going to be really looking for detail on the pads to make sure that the solder is completely covering the pad, that I see none of the pad, but also that the solder is not on the pad next to it unless it's supposed to be. So when you have 2 wires that you kind of twist together, those come together at that point, then yeah, maybe it'll be on both pads next to each other. Other stuff I'll be looking for, one of the big obvious ones is that you have continuity. So we'll actually take a multimeter and we'll go from one end to the other, and we'll see if the electricity flows all the way through. So that's about all I want to explain right now for this formative. And I'll have this example on the table or something like that that you can take a look at. And of course, ask me questions. It is okay to have larger than a 1 hole gap between the wires. You can of course have a couple hole, that's fine. What's important though is that you take up just one side of this perf board, because we're going to be using this for a couple different things. We're going to be putting a couple different things on here. So once you finish your one strand, show me. I'll give you feedback and I'll rate it. I'll tell you things that I'm seeing and things on ways to improve. You will need a soldering iron, safety glasses, and solder, of course. Use the smaller solder, and you shouldn't need this much solder. From here to here, you shouldn't need that much solder. Just cut off some solder, take it, use it. If you need more, cut off more. We don't want to be wasting our supplies. So check out the example, let me know what questions you have, and I'm looking forward to giving you feedback and seeing how you do.